I need you to like the video, comment if you want, but turn your post notifications on so you know the next time I drop. Up next, we got another one from Ask a Brother Podcast, where he asked the question, why don't women listen to their significant other?
In your opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to throw it out there. I've noticed that there has been challenges in the dating market in comparisons from the 90s and the early 2000s. In your loose opinion or professional, why do you think that westernized women, I'm going to speak generally and then we could get specific, but why do you think in this Western culture, constructive criticism coming from Black men, it's like it gives women the ick or they reject it?
So it's
all right, so let me give my 2 cents before he gives his explanation. When we operate under a gynocentric lens and we reject male authority, especially as patriarchy being a negative due to feminism, with the combination of Black women never seeing male authority in their life, for the most part, not all Black women, but most of them, never seeing male authority in their life where their father is the head of household, and only seeing women in power creates this negative outlook on Black men and their authority. That's what I'm gonna say. I'll leave it there though.
Is this in response to women in general or Black women?
We'll do in general first and then we'll get specific.
Yeah.
That was a great question because I only answered it for Black women.
I had mentioned this on a couple podcasts that I think that generally speaking, outside of a relationship, women actually have no problem with accountability. In the workplace, in their academic environments, they know what the rules are. They follow them to the T. They get those degrees. They get those promotions. They put.
You see, this is masterful because it allows him to speak in general, and so it gives the "if the boot fits, wear it" mantra in a more positive manner for Black women specifically. So it opens them up to be more receptive to what it is that he has to say, and he's only talking in generalities. Now, when you talk about the Black women specifically, we'll see when they kind of fall off. But right now, just by him speaking so prominent in generalities where most men would take this as an opportunity to admonish Black women, he's taken as an opportunity to speak positive. So there's something to be learned here.
Their resumes and work portfolios together to match and meet the markers that they know are necessary for them to move up in a particular environment. I think that for whatever reason, when it comes to relationships, I think that their emotions are, this is one of the few areas in their life where their emotions are allowed to be more dominant in their decision making. And it's no longer the first impulse is to just follow the command or do what they're supposed to do. Or if something is pointed out, they'll just address it. In a relationship, that's one of the few places where I think that they're allowed to express their emotions and allow their emotions to be more free. And unfortunately, it just happens to be with the person who they're choosing to do life with. So when something comes up and they're hearing something that they don't like, particularly and often about themselves or their actions, it's just not unusual for them to initially take the thing that you're pointing out that they did wrong or said wrong and take it as a slight against who they are as a person, their identity. And sometimes it'll kind of come out in terms of, and I've seen it in counseling sessions where a couple will sit in front of me and oftentimes the male or the husband or boyfriend or fiance will point out one thing, and what was said and what she heard and what she responded to isn't all the same thing.
I liken to this old saying that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And so if you were to unpack that and really take it for what it's trying to convey, just imagine there are people on the same planet that we don't even speak the same language of. So imagine being on two different planets. Like the way that you experience the sun, your years are totally different. You understand what I'm saying? The way women speak is through feelings. Men are very direct in how they speak because it's the thing that's most expedient for relationships and conversation. Whereas women, they are more driven on how they feel. That's their language. I said it a lot, but I'm gonna let it keep rolling.
So a lot of times their reactions are to that internal trigger that's saying you're saying something is wrong with me. When in reality, it's usually and oftentimes when men are pointing something out, it's about the act of what was or wasn't done that should or should not have been done.
And it's very specific.
So oftentimes that's actually what's going on. It's not that they don't have the capacity to be more accountable or to follow directions or receive feedback, even feedback they don't want to hear. It's that when you get into a relationship, and we all do it, we do what's called emotional shortcuts, where
emotional shortcuts.
Instead of in the way in which I talk to my boss, I know that I would never raise my tone. I would never storm off. I would never ignore them. But when we get with the people that's closest to us, friends, family, people that we've grown up with, it's just not unusual for us to kind of skip a couple steps because emotions are much more dominant in our decision making.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Do you think generally...
I think that, though, if you want a relationship that is pro you having a good quality of life, then it's better for you to establish that level of communication with your significant other, be it your wife or husband or whatever it is, whoever's listening, and establish a way where simple things like those misunderstandings are a thing of a past. I typically think about it like this, like I've often pondered this, just growing in my relationship. Me and my friend, my day one, me and his conversation are like 5-lane highways, just shooting information back and forth. But me and my woman, it's like a dirt road, you know what I'm saying? And so I explained to her that there's something that is preventing us from being able to communicate effectively. So what I want to do is I want to figure that out. And if that requires me to have to give up some ground and make some adjustments, I'm willing to do so. But you would have to be able to do the same.
Speaking, men, we don't typically take issue with constructive criticism, even if it's coming loud like a bullhorn, or even abrasive almost.
Yep.
I think we've been socially conditioned to receive it no matter what it is, especially if it's the end result that we're looking for is like...
Socially and realistically, because we understand that there's no safety net for most men. So we have to take in information, because if we don't, it could be the difference between life and death for us.
Betterment. We're going to be better. Self-improvement. We can receive constructive criticism. Sometimes we don't want to hear it, but we can receive the message. And I'll just put my 2 cents in. Being that I am a military person, I had guys right here with the Elmer Fudd hat right here on my neck, Major Payne. If you've seen Major Payne, do you have a problem with authority, boy? So I'm used to that, and just standing still. Yes, sir. No lip, no nothing. And if you crack a smile, you sassing me? Get down and give me 30. So I'm used to receiving immediate repercussions for acting out of line when I'm receiving critique. And the one thing that I've noticed, I'll say over the past 4 decades, it's something I call the water boiling over the pot. Our women, now I'll be specific, they can't receive constructive criticism, even if it's coming in a soft tone with love and care. It's still received as negative. What do you think that's about, professionally or your personal opinion?
All right, let me jump in before he does, because I think he's gonna kill. He's gonna knock this one out the park. But I'll say, because how can you really expect them to if they've never really received it, especially from a man? The level of criticism that they will receive because of how they view the world will be taken as an attack versus it being taken as love. A man's love comes in his critique because it shapes you into the person that can survive in this world effectively. Women, for the most part, have been conditioned to only hear the positive about themselves, because men typically look to get next to that punani. And so when you've been conditioned in that way of thinking, what do you expect?
What do you think that's about?
Yeah, so the first part is an example you gave, I think illustrates the point I'm going to make. It actually depends the man, and it depends the context in terms of his willingness to accept said feedback. Also, men in employment situations and in the military and in armed forces and in policing, yeah, they're probably going to accept whatever it is that's being said to them, even if it's not the nicest way in which it's being said.
Yeah.
But in reality, yeah, our prison population, a huge percentage of them are men that couldn't control their emotions.
Yeah, overly emotional men.
Who couldn't be told no, or who couldn't handle themselves quite well. Also, you have to factor in how many of us take ourselves out of here when life gets too tough. So our ability to handle emotions tends to just look different. And even in the context of a relationship with a woman, even if it's a Black woman, when we're hearing things that we don't often like or want to hear about ourselves, our go-to is to shut down. So the reality is like, if women tend to lash out, men tend to shut down. So we both have our unique, intricate ways of how we, generally speaking, tend to not always like to receive feedback about what's wrong with us. When we're in a healthy place, when we're receiving it from a healthy person, it's not unusual for men to be able to respond fairly well to it, especially when they're given the opportunity to actually improve on the thing that they're struggling with. In regards to Black women specifically, yeah, there is a percentage of Black women, and no one knows what that percentage is for whatever reason, as to when in their individual lives they tend to struggle most with it. What I have noted, even in my own life personally and professionally, I have learned and observed that men that seem to get the most respect and seem to get women to respond much better, they tend to be viewed very differently than the average male. They tend to be viewed very differently. And I think it actually does start from the approach of how it is that they're presenting themselves and what it is that they're willing to tolerate and interact with in terms of people, attitudes, etc. So as an example, I work in a field where I'm surrounded by women. Almost all of them are Black or Hispanic. And I'm assuming we all know that they all don't have the best days, right? How am I able to do that with that many women, particularly that Black and Hispanic, which stereotypically are often associated with having the attitudes and being very difficult to work with and getting things done and being able to receive constructive feedback? And is it because I'm some 6'5" millionaire? No. It's probably somewhat related to just the general approach of what it is that I accept, don't accept, how I engage and respond with them, and also my approach with attempting to model what I've seen that was effective with other men. Saying what needs to be said, picking my time of when it is that I think is most appropriate, not falling for the conversational traps that are often set up. So you're saying this, or da, 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 da. Like I just, sometimes I'll just let them kind of go and I say what needs to be said. I leave it there sometimes and I say, well, it's kind of obvious and clear right now that this isn't a good time. So, we're going to circle back after you've had time to think on it.
What he's saying is 100% facts. I just don't have the capacity to give that to more than one woman. Like, I can't, I can't tolerate that shit, man. Like, there's just certain levels of things that I can't tolerate. So it's best for me to not have to manage more than one woman, because it's a lot of having to temper yourself from that coming at you all at the same time. But you want to know what though? I think that the different ingredient that's there is the love. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't really think that, I think that a man can love more than one woman at a time, don't get me wrong, but I think that he truly loves usually only one woman at a time. That's usually only one main chick. And so there's a certain level of need for her to understand versus dealing with other women, even just dealing with the skills of, right now, I'm not having a conversation with you, I'm having a conversation with your emotions. And so maybe you need a couple minutes to cool down. Just take a couple minutes to cool down, we'll revisit this later, But having to constantly keep doing that over and over and over again, I mean, it's doable. I don't think that I have the temperament for it, but now that I start to unpack it a little bit, if I take out the whole love aspect phenomenon with it, it doesn't really cost much when you really start to think about it. But I don't know, man. I think I would get too annoyed. I get annoyed very quickly. Seriously.
It's very difficult to kind of go back and forth with somebody who's not willing to go back and forth with you. And I think that that's a lesson that I think us as men, usually we start learning when we get older, that there is a way to communicate with women regardless of where they are on the spectrum of emotional development and emotional regulation. You have to recognize the woman that's before you and adjust accordingly. And it's not to say to accept abuse or blatant disrespect.
That's a lot of work though, man, because these women are crazy, bruh. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how can you continue to build? It's easy for him because he's in a psychological degree or psychological field where he can leverage monetary gain from being able to adjust accordingly. But for the average guy, you either gonna be adjusting accordingly to these women or you're gonna be adjusting accordingly to life. And so you can't really do both. A woman is supposed to really be designed as a helpmate. So I understand and I enjoy the curiosity that comes behind understanding the psyche of women and men and how they work together. But that is only afforded to people who have their shit together to a certain extent where they have the time to really think about it this deep. And I only say that to speak for the common man. The common man don't got time to be adjusting to different women and how they feel about shit. You know what I'm saying? The common man really only have time to deal with one woman anyway. He probably can only afford one woman, so that's probably what he only gonna be able to do. But still, even the uncommon man, it's almost like you would have to trade your purpose in to manage women because you're gonna have to adjust yourself for each one of them, and that is fucking annoying to me personally.
Fact, it is to say that if you set the tone, you maintain frame, you communicate clearly,
I agree,
softly and effectively, and you adjust to the woman that's in front of you. 8 out of 10 of them typically are actually going to circle back or respond more favorably, even if it's not instantly at that moment.
I wholeheartedly think that his approach is 100% effective. I think that it is. I just don't have the temperament for it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that everything he's saying is 100% effective for anybody who's interested in understanding women that deeply. I'm really interested in understanding the secrets of life and being able to build real wealth and get as rich as humanly possible. So I can't sacrifice the brain capacity and thought value on just understanding women to that capacity. That's why I often say, man, I'm a relationship type of guy. I don't do the whole, polygamous or polyamorous, whatever you want to call it. I don't do that whole thing because I just don't have the capacity to want to have to adjust myself for more than one woman at a time. I know it's required and you can reach them. I just don't wanna.
Everybody shut the fuck up. Hey, shut the fuck up. Let me tell you something right now.
If you made it this far, check out the last video we just did with a fair-skinned TikTok queen who said that food stamps should be unlimited. Check it out.